Guys, Ronan Man here, and today I'm going to talk about how to learn, how to study. So I was asked, what kind of audiobooks that I listen to, and how I learned what I know, and I just feel like that's not enough. I think it's more important to learn how to study and how to think. And I want to show you and then inside of that, we're going to go into the specific people I studied and the books I read. But much more importantly is how to learn. And I think that is really what guys need to know. I mean, obviously, if you look at schools these days, kids are coming out of school with $40,000 in debt. I think it's an average of $27,000 in debt, and not much to show for it. Grades are going down, like IQ tests are not good. Skill level for new graduates is going down. And so how do you, and also with the more of a political takeover of the schools rather than an academic focus, what's happened in the schools. And I want to go even deeper because I never even vibed with academic schools myself. I went to some good schools, and I just never, before they were taken over by, the politically correct movement. And I still, even at that time, I never really grooved with the way schools taught. And I actually thought I was stupid when I was young. And I think probably most people that knew me, they knew I wasn't a good student. And, I really grew up with an image of being dumb. I thought I was stupid. I didn't like the way things were in school. I didn't like sitting down. I didn't like reading books. I liked to do other things, and I couldn't figure it out. And I don't want to get this into like some kind of a victim thing. It's really not that. It's like you need to take responsibility for your life. You need to figure out how you work. Okay, so you need to figure out what makes you tick and what ways are there to do things so that you can have a good life. You can't wait around for schools to figure you out or for your coach to figure you out. You need to say, wait, what the hell options are out there? What do I want to do? What do I want to learn? What do I want to become? And, what are all the options out there? And so this is for people that want to learn who are not doing well in traditional schooling. If you're doing well in traditional schooling, I think you'd even gain more from this podcast, but I doubt you have any need for it. You don't feel any need for it. So let's focus on people that didn't do well in school, didn't like school, didn't jive with you. You're gonna really resonate with new ways of thinking about learning. But the thing is like these days with technology changing so fast, I mean, basically the truth changes fast because every time there's a scientific discovery, then there'll be another one, a few months later on some, white paper in the middle of nowhere written in Sweden that you can't even read, that will totally debunk the older one that was written 4 months ago, And so basically things are changing very, very fast. So the biggest skill that you have in success is your ability to change and update and to learn in real time. So in that sense, you really have an opportunity today that you never had before. The old way was if you were a good student, you had a way to the top. And if you were not somehow in that right group, let's say you were the wrong color, or you just didn't, like myself, I just didn't jive with most teachers. I didn't jive with most schools. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't like school. I used to run away from home. I used to ditch school a lot when I was a kid. Even when I was a really little kid, I used to not want to go to school. I remember faking like I was sick and staying home. And some of my fondest memories are with my mom of going to Sears instead of going to school and pretending like I'm sick. And my mom, she knew I was playing sick, She's not stupid, but I don't think she really knew what to do with me, to be honest. So she just took me wherever we went, right? My brother and my sister went to school. And I would just kind of ditch. And I remember in, I don't know what grade it was. I think it was third grade or second grade. I felt bad because I had missed so many days of class that I went to the teacher just before, the end of school. And I gave her a present. And she didn't even remember who I was. And she said, well, and I remember like, I'm in your class. But I had missed so many days, I just didn't want to go to school. I didn't like school. I didn't understand school. My sister was very good at school. She loved books. I remember she had a bookshelf all the way around her room. Like it was like up near the roof, and it went all the way around. It was quite. I like that bookshelf. If I ever make a bookshelf, and I'm gonna make one like she did. It was kind of, it wasn't her. It was probably my grandfather made it for her, but it was cool because it went all the way around the room. Usually most bookshelves are just a short little thing. This went all the way around, so you could put something all the way around the room. It was pretty neat, and all the way around the square, right? So my sister was good at school, and some other people that I knew that I was close to were quite into school, and they enjoyed school. And, that was really frustrating for me. I can only remember, honestly, a couple times in school when I enjoyed it. One was in fifth grade. I had a teacher who I really liked, and I remember enjoying fifth grade a lot. And he got me to read a lot of books. And we got these stars for reading books, and I got really into reading that one year. But most of the time, I did not like school. I did not get along with the teacher. And I don't want to make it look like this is the school's fault, or, you know what I mean, that the world was against me. I'm sure that I have plenty of faults today. I'm sure as a kid I had, I didn't know anything about life. I'm sure that that a lot of the results that I got were because of the actions that I took. So I'm not saying that the world was against me, but let's face it, when you're a little kid, you don't have it all together. You know what I mean? You don't really know. My parents didn't push me to do well in school, and I didn't like it. The only thing I liked about it was getting together with people, because I like people. Even today, I love people, and I like all the subscribers on the channel. I love interacting with people. We did the MGTOW Global Conference, and I don't know why, but some people didn't like when people made friends and got together. But to me, that's super important. Meeting people online is great, and obviously it's awesome. And meeting people offline is great. And what you do in your real life really matters, So I think in the end, if you have a choice of which is more important, it's obviously your offline life is more important. And that's why I like getting together with people. That's why I like having real friends that, that I can talk to and we can work through issues, They can help me, I can help them. We see each other's weaknesses. We're able to tell each other the truth, and we're able to grow in a way that you can never do when you don't have those networks, that physical, those connections with other people who are on the same road. So I think it's very important, but it's all down to learning, right? So school didn't really do it for me. I didn't like school, like I said. I remember I did, at various times I did very well. I remember I got into an advanced mathematics course quite young, and then I don't know, the teacher, I just didn't like him, and I just didn't like the class. I did terrible. I got an F. And here I am, getting into this class in advance of all people my age. I was in, and then failing completely, F. You know what I mean? That doesn't make sense, And anybody who was paying attention, which everybody was. My parents were too busy at the time, but it doesn't make sense. Why would a kid get gifted into a class and then get an F, right? And then I took it again. I got an F again. And then the third time I was getting an F. I basically got an F 3 times in a row for the same course, mathematics course. And by the third time I took it, I was at the same, all of my classmates were in the class. We were all the same age. I was 2 years ahead the first time. And so I just had these frustrating things that I just couldn't, they weren't explained the way I wanted. I understood, and I remember one specific time I remember in class, I remember raising my hand, and I wasn't a teacher's pet type. I was very much a rebel type. But I remember this one time I wanted to know something. So I asked the teacher, I said, hey, I don't understand what could you explain that again? And he said, oh, okay. So he explained it again, but he explained it exactly the same way again. And I felt stupid, but I didn't understand. So I just raised my hand again. I said, I know you just explained it again, but I still didn't understand. Could you explain it again another way or something? And he explained it. I remember he explained it exactly the same way the third time. And so I gave up. I didn't, no. That's right. The teacher was frustrated the third time. He said it the same way, third time. And then I raised my hand and I said, does anybody understand what he just said? Does anybody else, I looked around at the whole class and I was really sincere, and then everybody raised their hand. They're like, I don't understand. The teacher was astonished that we all didn't understand what he was talking about. And I think looking back, because I taught high school and university back in my 20s in Japan. And so before I got into business, I was a teacher. So I know that a lot of teachers don't know shit about what they're doing. And they're very, very human. And so now looking back, I bet that teacher didn't understand the concept very well himself. That's why he said it 3 times the same way. And that's not necessarily his fault. He might have been asked to teach a class he didn't really understand. That's what happens at the beginning of the year. Teachers, it's like, hey, can you teach math this year? So-and-so is sick. We need a math teacher. It's like, well, I don't want to. Okay, well, here's the book. And then he teaches math. That's how it works in school. That's actually how it works, especially in elementary and junior high school and high school. It's like teachers just take over classes based on what's needed. They're not necessarily teaching what they even know. They're reading the book just like you. And that's why so many teachers are not good. They're really not doing what they want. They're not teaching the subjects they want. And they're not teaching it the way they want either. Because most books, in my experience, are really terrible. I really think that most textbooks are not good. They're so out of date. I mean, one look at a computer and you look at a book and it's out of date. It doesn't take a genius. So all that said is like the whole education and learning thing is becoming an issue. Because you look at schools these days, men are being, boys get 20, what is it? I forget what it is. It's between 20 and 30% lower grades when their teachers know that they're male. And that's been proven. And they did blind tests, and then the teachers graded them. 70% of the teachers are women, and they gave lower scores to the boys if they knew they were boys. And so, that is a statistical fact, and it's something that nobody wants to talk about in mainstream media. I can put the link below if you want to see the study. It was very, very terrible, and I don't think anybody really wants to even think about it. I don't want to think about it. I'm not on a rampage against women teachers. It's just like, but the fact remains is that boys are it's not easy for boys. And it's my thesis that it was never easy for boys in school ever. You can talk about before the patriarchy or before the matriarchy started and before feminism, but I'm 53 and I had my birthday and I'm 53 now, and I remember when I was a kid and it was not easy for boys back then. We had to sit still. I didn't like sitting still. There were very few classes that I really jived with, that I really grooved with. And the only one I can really remember that I really grooved with, my favorite class in school was woodworking. And that was with Mr. Mohan. And it was a fucking great class. And I think in many ways that he was my guide through a difficult time. It's amazing what men can do for each other. Mr. Mohan, he was a great guy. All right, get a little emotional. All right, so let's talk about this. So learning, man, it's fucking important. All right, it's not easy, man. It's like, if I don't learn the way other people learn, I just don't. I really don't. I don't like reading books. And it's like in the old days, if you didn't like reading books, what the fuck were you going to do? You know what I mean? Basically, if you didn't like reading books when I was growing up, it means that you were not interested in learning. But the thing is, I was interested in learning. I was very interested in learning. And it wasn't until, like I talked about Richard Feynman in my last video. And I love the way he teaches. I love the way he thinks. He was, absolute genius. And he was one of the key people who developed the nuclear bomb, which won World War II for the United States and the Allies. And, finished the war once and for all. That war was going on, was dragging on. Talk about Germany all you want, but there was a lot of war in Asia. Countries like China, countries like Japan, there was Philippines, there was massive battles going on. The war was not over when the Europeans finished. That's the fact. It was going on, and it was going on very, very hardcore. Watch The Pacific if you want to know more about it. There's an HBO series called The Pacific, which is really fucking great. You should definitely watch it. It is really great. If you've seen Band of Brothers and you've never seen The Pacific, fucking watch The Pacific, man. That is just great. Especially if you're interested in Asia, you want to go to Asia, or you have an Asian background or whatever, you're interested in Asia, watch The Pacific. Oh man, that's a great series. But okay, so here I am. I don't like school. My parents didn't understand why I wasn't good at school. I didn't understand. I felt bad. I had low self-esteem about school. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It wasn't until I got in school, into university, university where I excelled in a few classes. I scored very, very high in logic. I was the highest in my class of 400. I scored the highest economics, macroeconomics score in the history of my school. So I did do well in a couple of things. And I could understand graphs. Graphs made sense to me. So macroeconomics was all about graphs. And the graphs were I totally get graphs. I get the visual representation of data. I get that. And also, I don't want to put down, I don't want to say, and I'm not saying in this podcast, that my way of learning is the best and you can learn everything by looking at visual. Hey, it ain't like that. I wish I had the other skill too of mathematics itself. And I wish I would have been forced to really become good at mathematics, because I understand that you can understand all the visuals you want. You can understand the logic of everything, but there's a point when you need the mathematics to get to the next level. And I realize that you need to get to the highest level of anything, physics, you need to know mathematics. You need to understand mathematics. And it's the same thing with any kind of cryptocurrency. You need to understand, if you really want to understand it, you need to understand cryptology, which is mathematics. And to understand why things are secure, why things are not secure, it's all down to mathematics. So I don't want to say that my way was the best. I did score high on macroeconomics, I had no doubt about that, and a couple of the things like logic. But I also want to improve myself. I'm not here to tell you I am the perfect, learner. I'm here to tell you the truth about what I know and the way that I figured out a new way to learn, or I think it's a new way to learn. And I'll just kind of go through it. So first time I kind of realized that I was figuring things out differently than other people, or when I realized that I was able to learn differently than others, was when I was studying Japanese. So I studied, I had no money. I went to Japan with like $500 or something like that, and a credit card. I had no money. I got a job, and I decided I was going to study Japanese. And I didn't know I was going to stay in Japan. I just I figured I'll just study Japanese. And I was like I said, I was very active, boning a ton of chicks, dating a ton of chicks. I had a very good social life. My life was very interesting and very fun at that time in my life. It was very different than the different phases of my life. Okay, so don't get confused here. We're talking about 1991 here, right? But so I wanted to learn Japanese, and so I tried. I didn't really know how to learn. How do you fucking learn something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you just quit everything you're doing and go to school, get an MBA, or do you pick a class online? Or I didn't want to fuck around. I always had the Ronin man gene. Like, I don't want to fucking waste time. I do not want to waste time. I do not want to waste my energy. I want to find the best, smartest way to do something. And I don't care how hard it is. That's fine. But I want to find the smartest way to do something, the best way to get it done, so that it's done, so that I have it, And so how do you do that? How do you do that? Because when it comes to language learning, there's a lot of fucking dickwads out there telling you how to learn languages, and I didn't find them very helpful. And I found most people that were good at languages, I couldn't relate to them. The way they act, the way they talk, the way they learn, none of it, right? So I'm like, fuck, I got to learn. So I started boning this chick who was super rich. Her name was Aiko, and Aiko said to me, she said, "You know what?" Because she had all these. She was a entrepreneur. She had all these businesses, and so she would ask, as we got to be better friends. She was originally one of my students when I was teaching her, and she started asking me questions like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And I would say this and that, and then she wanted to open up a bunch of pachinko gambling places in China and bowling alleys. So she took me to China. I went to China, helped her do that. We opened up a bunch of pachinko up in the north. They got shut down later because of, long story. But we opened up bowling alleys in Shanghai, which were successful. And through that, she learned to respect me, because I didn't speak Chinese, but I figured out people very, very quickly. And I could figure out who to trust and who not to trust. And I told her not to trust her manager in China. And he ended up being a real thief and stealing the company from her. So she learned that I was a good partner for her. So she started asking me questions, and we started doing things together. And she said, "Look, you're smart." And that was the first time anybody ever told me I was smart. Honestly, Aiko was the very first person. She said, "You're smart." She said, "Why don't you learn Japanese?" And I said, "I don't have any money." And then she's like, "I'll pay." So she paid for me to go to school. And here I was working full time. I was boning chicks at night, wasn't getting like 4 hours sleep. I was drinking like 18 cans of coffee a day. While I was teaching, I was so tired all day. And then I would go to school in the mornings, early in the mornings. And I went to a place, there was a Franciscan chapel, and inside there they had a school, which now long closed many years ago, but it was a very good school, and it was very respected. And I knew the area because there was a 12-step meeting in the other building, so I used to go to the 12-step meeting, and I'd hear about the school. So I said, okay, that's convenient, because I can go there, I know how to get there easily, fast. I can go there, I can go to a meeting, I can go to work, and I can get to work and teach, and then go do my stuff at night. So I signed up. ACO paid for me to sign up for this class, and I started studying Japanese. And they gave me a book, and the book was actually pretty good. It was by I forget her name, Jordan something, but either way, it was a woman. And it was a pretty good book, and it was a lot of audio. Had a lot of audio tapes with it, and that was really key because the book itself didn't really do anything for me. I just can't look at a book and think of what it's going to sound like. So, for example, some people can look at a room and they can go to a furniture store and they can imagine what that room would look like full of furniture. And another person can look at a website, like a WordPress template, and then they can look at some pictures online and they can know. I got a friend who's a genius at this. He can know exactly what the site will look like when it's done, right? He can picture a blank website and then a full website full of content. And then he can say, oh, this is not the right one. That's not the right one. This is the right one. He can pick the right one because he can already see what it looks like when it's finished. I can't do that at all. And very much don't have that skill. So when I would look at the book too, I couldn't put like the words on the pages into like conversations in my life. So I was like, okay, fuck, but it had these tapes. So I took the tapes and it was a cassette tape time back in 1991. January, and I'd put them in I had an auto reverse, which means that it played constantly. So the tape, you'd play side A, and then it would click over to side B, play side B, click over to side A. It would just keep playing over and over. And so I would put the tape in, and I would listen to it when I was at home, just over and over and over and over and over, the same tape. And then I would put another tape in, I would listen to it over and over. And I would be kind of busy doing my thing. I'd be kind of like, maybe I'd be doing some errands, or I'd be like cleaning something, or, I would be, moving around the room, but I had the tape playing so I could hear it, taking a shit with the door open, and I could just sit there and I could lay outside, get some sun, but I could hear the tape playing. And that started to make sense to me. Those words on that tape started to become words from my lips, where I could just like be somewhere else and I could say it just like it said on the tape. Same accent. I could do it just as smoothly, the same tones, the same cadence. It was like, whoa, the tapes are magically going into my mind. So I said, okay, I got to take it to the next level. So I'm going to fucking play these things as I go to sleep. So I started to play these tapes as I went to sleep. Well, then what happened is, of course, I fell asleep, but it was on auto reverse. I had forgotten to put it. I was going to put it so that it stopped at the end of the tape because you could switch it back then. But I didn't. I let it play and accidentally, and then it kept playing all night. And I woke up at night, and I remember hearing it, and I thought, oh, it's still on. And then I went back to sleep, and I woke up in the morning, and I heard it still playing, and there was something good about it. I thought, that's good. I didn't know what it was yet, but it's something good. So the next night, same thing, played the tapes. And then I would wake up, and when I remember when I woke up, I was in when you wake up, you're kind of in this like very relaxed state. It's like it's called a suggestive state. Your mind is in a very suggestive state. And so what I was listening to was going into my brain in a very suggestive, while my brain was open to this information, right? And I think this is how children learn. Babies, infants, they lay in bed, they listen to their mother. They hear the voices. And they're not putting sentences together, but they're listening and they're putting things together. And that's what I was doing with these tapes. And so I kept doing it. And I learned right then that you can learn while you're sleeping. And people can argue with me. They can say it doesn't work. I think, in other words, if you put on an encyclopedia and you put it on one night, and you're trying to memorize an encyclopedia, or you put on a novel and you go to sleep, you're not going to understand the story. Don't get me wrong. I'm talking about repetitive, complex ideas that are almost like too difficult for you when you're awake. Like your awake brain listens to them and says, too hard. It's too difficult. I can't do that. All your negative self-talk comes up, right? That's the kind of shit I'm talking about. That's the shit you want to play at night. And let your brain just sort it out. Listen to it, and then in the morning when you wake up, don't just get up. Lay there for a while, even if it's just a minute, and listen. And what I found after a long time, was I would wake up. I'd wake up to take a piss or whatever. And I remember that it would be playing, right? And I'd be over there taking a piss, and it would be almost echoing in my mind. And that, my friends, is a miracle. That is a miracle. Because it had fully echoed. It had fully resonated. And so when I speak Japanese very naturally. It's because of the way I learned. So I learned a new way to learn languages. And then I took that and I started using it for audiobooks and things like that. So what I do now is I listen to tapes, I listen to audiobooks, I put them on before I go to sleep, I play them all night, every night. I listen to quantum physics, particle physics, sales, whatever it is. I have various topics I listen to. I play them when I sleep. I play them when I wake up. I play them whenever I'm not doing anything. So if I'm driving, audio tape. If I'm walking the dog, audio tape, right? If I'm walking the dog alone without anybody else, audio tape. If I'm walking on the beach, audio tape. If I'm audiobook. If I'm in the bank, I'm waiting in line, audiobook, right? Whenever I don't have to talk to people, audiobook. And the thing is that you think as kind of if you're kind of an amateur learner, you think that you want to study a specific topic. You don't. The best way, or I shouldn't say you don't. I don't know. Maybe you do. But I'm gonna present another option, and that's to learn everything. And if you learn everything, what happens is the ideas that you learn from one thing, they end up being very useful for another thing, and another thing, and another thing. Wisdom is transferable, and information and knowledge and understanding, it makes you a smarter person. It creates more connections in the dendrites in your brain, the synapses. Your brain will work better. The net that is your neural connections will be thicker and more connections, and easier to solve problems without a lot of thinking, because you've created that neural net. And that's what happens when you get older, is you don't have to think as hard. Your brain has already thought of all these things. So it's pretty easy to get an answer pretty quickly. Now, when you get older and you have memory problems, that's another issue. But the wisdom from all those experiences is what allows you to figure things out pretty quickly, because you can generalize. You can say, wait a second, I dropped a TV out of the window, and then I dropped a bottle out of the window, and they both did the same thing. It's like you generalize, right? Well, that's same with business and everything in life. The more you know, the easier it is to kind of like figure things out, right? So as a young kid, he's trying to figure something out for the first time. It's hard work for him. So don't make fun of for young kids. We're having to go through a lot of thinking to come to a conclusion about something, because they don't have the experiences that they can just draw on to come to a conclusion. They have to actually think about it. Like, wait a second, if the train goes 45 miles an hour, he's got to actually think about everything, right? Whereas somebody like a physicist, if you listen to Richard Feynman when he does mathematics before computers, when he was developing the nuclear bomb, he had a lot of shortcuts that he used to do quick mathematical calculations, either for a rough cut to get a general idea of the number, or actually way to get the exact answer without doing the whole problem. And him and Edward Teller and all the geniuses that worked on that bomb, that's what they did. That's how they did it so fast. They developed these shortcuts, these rules that they could shortcut a problem down, boom, get the answer right away. Nowadays, of course, it would be done on computer, but what they did is super, super cool, I think. I'm sure like if they were today, they would use that same skill on the internet to do something awesome, right? But okay, so let's get into, so if you're still with me, you're listening, you want to learn a lot of things. And a lot of different topics. Your life is long. Unless you have terminal cancer right now and you're 90 years old, you probably have a long life in front of you. So there's a hell of a lot of things you want to learn, right? And one of the ways that you keep learning is by varying things up so that your mind still has curiosity. So it's also the same with eating well. If you eat the same things all the time, your brain, you're going to get tired of those things. And you're going to have a difficult time eating them. And so you'll be cheating and you'll be eating ice cream and chips because your brain, you want variety. So you have to build in variety, good variety from the beginning so that your brain doesn't get tired. So when you're learning how that works, if you get tired, your brain will just wander off into something else and you won't learn. So you need to keep yourself motivated. So that's the balance. You want to learn the best way to learn, but you also want to keep your brain interested. And that's difficult. And I found the best way to do that is to study different topics because your brain will be like, oh, that's interesting. You think particle physics is boring? Well, when you get a really good teacher and an audiobook, you start listening to it and then you're like, holy shit, this is like super interesting. You're like, this relates to everything I'm doing, and then you're like, then you get into particle physics, then you study that for a while, then you switch off to something else, and then you listen to some Chinese history, you learn about Chinese history, then you learn about, something else. We'll go through all the topics that I study, I'm studying now and I studied recently here. So there you have the idea. There you kind of have my backup. You want to learn a lot of different topics. It's not because you want to learn that topic. It's not because, God, I have to learn this thing. It's because it's like a baby. You need to suck in a lot more information and knowledge than you think in order to have a very fulfilling and awesome life. To get things that you don't want, you need to do things you haven't done. You need to go places you haven't gone. To get to the new place, if you think you know what you need to do to go to where you want to go, you're out of your mind. If you knew, you would already be there. The problem is what you don't know. That's the problem, is that you don't know what you need to know to go to the next level. Ignore those idiots who just keep saying the same thing. Hey, I know what I need to do to lose weight. I just can't get myself to do it. I know what I need to do to be a great salesman. I just can't get to do it. When I hear that, you know what I hear? Is I don't know what I'm going to do. But so what I'm going to do is the exact same thing I did that didn't work before. And it's my fault that I'm not learning. I'm stupid. And I know it's not going to work because last time it didn't work. So there really isn't any hope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretend like I'm studying for a while. And then I'm going to get a fucking bottle of wine. That's what I hear. Because that is actually what's happening. It's actually what's happening. Because you don't know what you don't know. That's the problem in life, okay? So that's another reason to study a lot of different topics. It keeps you motivated, and also you don't know what is going to be the thing that's going to make something click in some other area in your life, right? Now, obviously, if you're studying to be an engineer, if you're studying to be an architect, if you're studying to be a specific skill, you want to be a California Highway Patrol, whatever, you have to study that, and you need to get that certificate. You need to get that done. I'm talking about general knowledge for you as a man and having an awesome life, right? So you can do this on the side while you're doing that. Okay, so here's a few of the people that I've studied, and I'm just going to kind of go off and just kind of generally, they're just in alphabetical order, so not in any particular order. So I'm going to come back to this whole books here, but here's Richard Bandler. Richard Bandler he was one of the first people with Virginia Satir and Milton Erickson that created something called NLP, and I thought NLP was quite interesting. The reason why I studied NLP, honestly, is because when the internet was new in 94 and people started sharing files, one of the first files that was shared was NLP for some reason. I don't know why. People were sharing NLP files. And I didn't have any money, but I had a computer. And I knew how to use a computer, so I just downloaded whatever files I could fucking get. And that was NLP, and that led me to Richard Bandler. So here's a few of Richard Bandler's... Let's let this thing warm up here. I haven't used this thing for a while here. Okay, here's a couple of his books that I have here. And, I don't know if I want to go into any of these ones. Just kind of give you an idea of, there's like goal setting, which is a specific, a specific thing. I'm not a huge goal setter, but anything Richard Bandler does, I'm willing to listen to. Okay, let's stretch this out here so we can see. Okay, skill of conversation. Adventures of Anybody, that's an interesting book actually. It's more of a almost like an Alice in Wonderland type of teaching you something while it's entertaining you book. That was good. Anchoring, this is great. I'm not going to talk about anchoring too much, but just tell you basically like you might have one specific movement that you do to remind yourself of something, right? That's how you anchor things. So you want to anchor when you want to anchor a good feeling in your mind, and you might think of something and you might do some particular movement with your hand, and when you touch your cheek in a certain way, it reminds you of something that's good, and it helps you to get in a good mood. It's like you anchor things, and then what you find is negative anchoring is what you do every time that you see something that reminds you of something bad. It makes you feel bad, and then what it is, that's an anchor for you. So what you do is you have to learn to take the anchor away, and then anchor it to something else, so you can change how you feel with anchoring. So I went through here. So here's this weekend seminar. Brookdale is also a seminar. He talks about how to get over shyness. DHE, design. What is I can't remember what it is. Human engineering or something. I got DHE. That's one of his best series. And then we have a little bit of Milton Erickson in here too. Milton Erickson was awesome. Neurohypnotic repatterning, neurosonics. I love neurosonics. Patterns of persuasion. It's for anytime you want to get somebody to do something. You want the dog to sit down. You want the dog to cross the road. You want to be able to teach your friend. You want to stop your child from running into the street so he doesn't get hit by a car and killed. That's persuasion. So you don't be afraid of persuasion. Persuasion is what you do. You persuade yourself, right? So basically, there's a lot of self-esteem, nested loops. This is an advanced form of kind of off on the anchoring type thing. So basically, he's got like entertaining stuff like The Medicine Show. But I found him to be very complex and very interesting. And I enjoy Richard Bandler. The guy is a bit of a wacko, He's had a couple of situations. There was one situation where I guess it was a prostitute and a gun, and there was some kind of, he's been through a lot. He's changed a lot of lives. And one thing about Richard Bandler, a very funny story about him was he was helping this guy. He was like going into like mental institutions helping people, and the guy thought he was Jesus, right? And Richard Bandler, he's a very radical guy. He's like a Ronin Man type fucking guy. I should say Ronin Man's trying to be like Richard Bandler, like have the radical thing that he has. But either way, we were a little bit kindred spirits in that sense. At least I feel so. So this guy thought he was Jesus, right? He's in a mental institution. So Richard Bandler went in there, and no one could help this guy. He thought he was Jesus. He would just go on and on about being Jesus. Richard said, okay. And then he said, he went in and talked to the guy. He said, hey, so what's going on? He says, I heard you're Jesus. He says, yes, I'm Jesus. Bless you, my son, or whatever. So he said, okay. So he leaves, and he goes to the hardware store and buys a bunch of wood, some nails and hammers, long nails, long pieces of wood, right? Comes back, brings the wood in there, brings the hammers in there, and looks at the guy, and then he just goes in the corner, and he starts hammering away, sawing away. And the guy who thinks he's Jesus said, what are you doing? He said, oh, nothing. I'm just working on some stuff here. Just doing a project, And the guy started getting a little nervous, right? Because he started to cut things that starting to look a little bit like a cross, right? And so Jesus was like, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And then he said, oh, just, he says, you're Jesus and all. At the end of Jesus is what Jesus does, and what his ultimate sacrifice and everything, and the guy starts sweating and everything, and finally he says, I'm not really Jesus, I just tell the people I'm Jesus. And he says, yeah, that's fine, I know you're Jesus, don't worry, you can say whatever you want, but I know you're Jesus, I know you're fucking Jesus. And then the guy's like starts going crazy, and then he starts pounding on the door, let me out, let me out. This guy's crazy, he thinks I'm Jesus, and he's going to crucify me. And the guy got out of the mental institution, and he never had to go back. He never thought he was Jesus again. So Richard Bandler cured that guy, and I like that kind of thinking. I love that kind of thinking. When I heard that story is when I started studying him, because he shortcutted a lot of bullshit, self-help fucking shit, and that guy, he saved that guy's life. So you can say whatever you want, but a dude like that changes fucking lives. So I always want to study people like that. So I studied him. Let's see, I'm just kind of ranting, going there. Barry Konnikov was kind of interesting. He does like self-help stuff, and he has one particular book in here. And I'm not saying to study exactly what I'm studying. I'm just kind of going through the logic of why I study, who I study. There was one in here that was really good. What's the name? The Thoughts You Think Sleep Take. Oh, okay, that's the one. Okay. Yeah, The Thoughts You Think. That was what it was. That's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. So I like that one because it helps you to think about how you think, improves the way you think. And that's the kind of books I like. Blockchain Revolution, that's a good book. That's kind of like, that should be in my AA whole book section. That's kind of like a popular book that's very helpful. Brendon Burchard is a self-help guy who basically teaches you how to make money online, essentially. Not a big fan of his personality. Sorry about that, Brendon. But I do like his work, and I've read all his stuff. I've listened to all his books, watched all his videos. I find that his Experts Academy is what it is how to be an expert and create a video course that you sell online. And, that's very helpful because a lot of people are trying to make money online with Google and YouTube, and there's just no hope in that. You need to make money online, you need to create a product and sell it, in my experience. And I used Brendon Burchard, and I used a couple other guys, and I made my own product. So that's what I do. Kristin Mickelson, he's an interesting guy. I learned about him through Pagan, who's one of my favorites online, who we're going to talk about in a second. And so I downloaded. Basically, the reason why I got that guy is because anytime a really smart guy recommends something, okay, somebody that you really groove with, you want to read that book. So that's everything that I have here was recommended by somebody else. So I read somebody who said something really awesome to change my life, and then he recommended somebody else, and that was what I downloaded next, right? Because I said, oh, fuck, this guy, he knows what he's talking about. I'm going to download him, right? Okay, Christopher Hitchens, this guy is an absolute genius. He is obviously he's an atheist. I know a lot of people on the channel are Christian. I'm not a Christian personally, but I really want you to think about this, guys. Regardless of what you believe, okay, the only way you're going to improve your life and really keep learning is by reading things that you don't want to read, because many books don't look good when you look at them. As a MGTOW, you're going to think that a lot of books are about feminism, or they're written by a woman, or they have like some kind of feminine color or feminine title. That doesn't mean you shouldn't read the book, because there might be some helpful stuff in there. So learning requires an open mind. It's one of the most important things, is having an open mind. So if you're a Christian and you want to listen to a very intelligent man, this guy here, Christopher Hitchens, the dude passed away from cancer, but this guy has a brain on him. He is a very intelligent man. It doesn't get much smarter than Christopher Hitchens. That dude is a wit like a poison fucking whip, man. And his thinking is very, very good for your thinking, right? That's why I studied him. And it ended up that I ended up agreeing with him. And I ended up getting more and more atheist as I listened to his stuff, because I understood, I believe, I learned, okay? I changed, okay? That's what happens. And here's the big danger. When you start learning, okay, you right now listening to this, when you start learning, you're going to start changing. And you might become the person that you didn't like before. See, because once you know more, you have to have a flexible, pliable enough self-concept that you can change into whatever you change into, whatever makes sense at the time. Because to grow, you can't stay the same by definition. And again, like I said before, if you knew what you want to become, you would already be it. You need, this is really my opinion. I'm not saying everybody agrees with me, but I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of value in reading a lot of shit that you disagree with. Okay. And I read a lot of shit I disagree with before I came up with this. Now, that being said, after I read it once, I deleted it. So a lot of the stuff that I read once is not here. So unfortunately, I wish I would have kept it, because then I could have said, oh, here's the guys I hate, and I kept them, and here's what I learned from them. I learned from them, and I threw them away because I still didn't like them that much, a lot of them. But I learned from them, right? So be open to learning from everybody is what I'm saying. Anybody who's smart, okay, and anybody who's genius, anybody who wrote something that's groundbreaking, things like that you want to read. Anybody who's a genius who recommends some other guy, right? He's not going to recommend some shit book, right? Because the guy's a genius, right? So that's the type of people you want to follow. And again, if it's a woman, right? You don't just learn from men. You learn from intelligent people, right? You learn more from an intelligent woman. Obviously you learn from a not intelligent man. So keep your eyes open. Keep your open fucking mind. You don't know what you need, but you know that there's a lot out there, and you know that you want to become a great man. And that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. You can read the most crazy stuff, and you can pick out the few gems out of it that you would get nowhere else, right? A lot of crazy people have actually taught me some important things in my life. And it was because I was open-minded to listen to them. Okay, so next thing is copywriting. So I made my online business, and so I wanted to learn about copywriting. So here I have all kinds of Jay Abraham, Dan Kennedy. I love Dan Kennedy. He's awesome. Perry, what's his name? I can't remember his full name, but basically, oh gosh, I can't think people's names right now. Oh man, dang it. Sorry, I can't remember your name. That's crazy. One of my favorite copywriters. I'll think of it. Sorry, I can't remember it right now. But these copywriting books really helped me to understand a lot of things about human psychology, about myself, about how to sell, about what people want, about how people think, about how I think. Because when you're selling something, and you're not getting a commit, you're not getting a salary, you have to learn how things really work. You can't be an idiot when you're selling something. You have to understand what the fuck is going on. Otherwise, no money comes in your account, right? So the rubber meets the road when you're selling. When you're copywriting, it's even worse because you can't even overpower someone with your personality. You have to get them with the copy, which is the things that you write, right? The words that you write, the sentences that you structure, right? The paragraphs, the thesis that you have and how you deliver it, right? It's very important. Copywriting is a very important skill today. It's the ability to sell online. Very important skill. I studied a lot of different copywriting grades. And also I read a lot of books I couldn't find online. So I went to the library. I got a lot of copywriting books and I read them, physical books, because I couldn't find them online. Or I bought them, right? So I had a lot of paper books too, because sometimes you just can't get stuff online. A lot of stuff's just not online. A lot of the best old stuff is not online. Okay, so Dan Kennedy. Then I just, people become popular over time, like Daniel Goleman. I read his stuff, emotional intelligence, social intelligence. I ended up not being a big fan of this guy. I left him in here for some reason, but that's another thing when you're learning. When you learn, I think a lot of people, they listen to my videos and they're like, hey, get to the point. Look, if you want to learn, you're never going to get to the fucking point, okay? The point is buried in a million things. You only get the gems in life by having patience and discipline, okay? There is no other way. There will be people who shorten it for you, they dumb it down for you down to the 3 points, right? And then you're going to watch a 1-minute video from them and they'll give you the 3 points. And I'm not saying go ahead and learn that way. If you think that's the best way to learn, get the guys who broke it down to the 3 bullet points for you, or the 3 paragraphs, or the 1 paragraph, or the 1 sentence. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? All I'm saying is most knowledge in the world is not broken down that way. And even if it were, if there was an artificial intelligence that could read every book in the whole world, break it down to 3 points, and have those explained to you, even if it were, there's a lot of value in going through the bullshit and the hard work of figuring it out why it is what it is, and the stories behind it, right? You need to go in there. And you need to sometimes, it's like exercise, man. You don't just go in the Olympics and win the gold medal. You got to lift the weights in the gym, right? Same with your brain. Same with your thinking and your logic and your understanding and your ability to discern truth from fiction, right? You only get that by hard work, and most information is not on a silver platter for you. So I had to go through guys like Daniel Goleman, and I did get a couple interesting things out of him. And I learned something. And I'll tell you one thing I learned right off the bat is that emotional intelligence is real. The ability to understand other people, basically. Some people are better at it than others. And what's really interesting about emotional intelligence, I read from somebody else, not this guy, because he made his living on selling emotional intelligence, is that people that are emotionally intelligent also are good manipulators because they know other people. So if you're emotionally intelligent, instead of giving yourself a hand job, you should probably watch yourself so that you don't abuse that skill that you have, so that you use it for good. Anytime you have a power, you find you have a power, you have responsibility that comes with that. You have opportunity, but you also have responsibility. So what I learned, I read his book, was a big hand job cheerleader for emotional intelligence. Then later I read about people that are emotionally intelligent are basically the best manipulators. So, that's the other thing is all these authors, they make a living. They're not like me. Like me, I don't give a fuck if I'm homeless. Like I want the truth no matter what. I'm telling you this. This is the way Rowan Man is. Day and night, every fucking day of my fucking life is I want to know the truth. I want to dig to the fucking truth every fucking time. And that's the way I am. Whether it's profitable, whether it destroys my reputation, what the fuck, I don't care. I'm always looking for the truth and I'm always trying new things. So most authors are not like that. So a lot of them, this is what happens when you read a lot of books, you're going to find out that most authors are one-trick ponies. They're going to have one good idea and then they'll try to milk it as long as they can. And if I have one piece of advice for a young man, is to say, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't be the guy. Even if you can make a good career out of it. You can, you have emotional intelligence, you're the emotional intelligence guy, and then you can broaden it to social intelligence, and then you can make books and teach this. Don't do that. Find one great thing, okay? Discover it and present it to the world. And then throw it in the garbage can and go into the wilderness. Jump off the cliff of darkness into nothing where you don't know what's going to happen next, and find the next fucking truth and grind it out and figure it out and present it to the world, and then throw it in the garbage can and jump off the fucking cliff again. And that will give you an amazing amount of confidence in the end. And also, those things that you threw in the garbage can, obviously, as in the Windows garbage can, it's still there. You still learned it. It's part of you. It's knowledge and wisdom that you have. And then when you go and find new stuff, and then new stuff, and new stuff, and your brain will start to, like some kind of alien in the movie, put it together at night. The thing starts slipping together. All those ideas, right? And you become a wise man, an intelligent man who can quickly suss things out, right? So don't be a one-trick pony. There's one thing. Read the one-trick ponies. That's cool. Take their gems and split, right? Take their gems and split. A couple other guys, Dick Sufton. Dick Sufton has a really good one. He's a weird guy. This guy's weird motherfucker. There's I call it the ESP tape, but it's a really fantastic. This guy's weird, okay? I don't agree with this guy at all. I mean, he's like Astro this and fucking hand job that, but he had one tape that was fucking amazing, man. I tell you, this goddamn guy. That's the reason why I kept him, is this one tape. I can't remember which one it was. I have to go through these ones. But basically, it's like, I don't know. I don't want to give it away because it's his idea. But, this guy had one good idea. And that one idea was worth it for me. Past life regression, ain't that bullshit? I don't believe in any of that. But sometimes the weirdest guys are the ones who are the most genius too. So you got to put up with imperfect people to learn. That's the other thing. Imperfect people, right? We're all imperfect. Let's see here. A friend of mine gave me some courses. Okay, here's Eben Pagan, one of my favorite guys of all time. And each one of these series here, Advanced Learning and Teaching, that's 20 hours. Becoming Mr. Right, 20 hours. Guru Home Study Course, 40 hours, I think. Map of Success, 10 hours. Power of Persuasion, 10. So, something like that. I'm just kind of randomly. I've watched all these many, many times. They're long series, man. Guru Blueprint, that's really long. Guru Boot Camp, that's another one, really long. Home Study Course, Guru Mastermind. Marketing, Self-Esteem, Mind Control, Modern Marketing, that's another 20 hours. Leading, Being a Leader, 20 hours. Ignition, How to Build a Business Online, that's really long. On Being a Man, Self-Made Wealth, Wake Up Productivity, that's not as long, maybe 10 hours, 15 hours. But all these series were great. I love them all. Someone's going to immediately say, I know, Becoming Mr. Right. I didn't really listen to that whole one. I feel like I pretty much already am at this point. I've become I'm on the road of a man that I always wanted to be. And I do want to keep learning. I want to keep improving. But sometimes things can be a bit remedial. But I did leave it there because, one thing I don't like about MGTOW is a lot of guys sitting there complaining about women all the time. Listen, man, you got to work on yourself. You want to be a better man? You don't get it by putting other people down. You get it by challenging yourself and putting yourself down. So in other words, I don't mean putting yourself down like, beating yourself up or throwing yourself off a cliff or drinking bleach. I'm talking about like when you're wrong, which is going to be a lot. Okay, by the way, more than 50% of the time, you have to admit it and find out why you're wrong and how you could be right next time. That's not fucking fun. That sucks. That fucking sucks. It's not fun. Learning is not fun in many ways. It makes you a better person, but it's not fun. So there ain't nothing wrong with watching some series about how to be better. Eckhart Tolle, I loved him at a time. I listened to all his books. I shouldn't say all. I probably listened to most of them. He's good. I listen, like I said, listen. So audiobooks, right? Mike feels same. I'm kind of over that guy. He was an internet marketer. I feel like he was not that great. Form Steve, I haven't listened to his stuff. I've downloaded it many times. I've got to listen to that. How Music Works. I love books like this because I'm not a musician. I'm not musical. But I understand that music is a big part of a human being and that even my voice now could be called music. It's words. I mean, what is music? You listen to like a recording of water or a recording of dogs or something. That is birds singing. This is kind of music. It's all kind of music, right? How you speak, your vocal tonality, and your voice. I'm interested in this aspect of life. I'm not good at it, okay? I'm not a musical person, and I would love to have somebody on the show who was a musical person who could help me to get over the things that I don't understand and to move to the next level. That would be freaking awesome. Okay, that's why I download stuff like that. Okay, internet marketing, there's a ton of stuff in here. List building, split tests. Split tests is when you have two, like let's say, you might have one picture of, let's say, a family and another picture of, let's say, a man climbing a mountain. And then you do an A/B split test so that you send traffic to your website. And then you look at the statistics and you see that 70% clicked on the family and 40% clicked on the guy climbing the mountain. So you switch the graphic to the family, right? So split testing is pretty awesome because what I love about split testing is that your opinion doesn't matter. Split test tells you the data. It gives you the results of the data that will make you more money. And you can change it. And what happens is you're often wrong, usually wrong. I'm usually wrong. That's why I love split tests. Because I wish there was a split test for everything. Because I know that I'm wrong like all the time. If I had a split test where I could test it off people and find out what I'm doing wrong and switch to another thing, that would be freaking awesome. Basically, it's a truth generator. And often it tells you things you don't want to know because we don't like change. Humans don't like change. It's difficult. Okay, so like things like voicemails, like guaranteed callback. I studied all this stuff over time. ClickBank, I had a product I was going to put on ClickBank, which is an online marketplace. I ended up not putting on ClickBank. Another copywriting series, copywriting bootcamp. Google AdWords, I've studied Google AdWords, Facebook ads. This is how you make money in today's world, is by doing advertising, and that is online advertising, right? So whether you're never going to sell anything in your whole life online, studying Google AdWords and studying Facebook ads is a very, very valuable thing for you about understanding how your own mind works and how people sell to you and how you control your money. So there's many ways to look at things. One is to make money, and the other one is you're also a consumer that spends money. So understanding how you're being influenced or how your mind works, which color, which font, which picture, what do you click on? Why do you click on that? What caused you to buy that? You think you bought it because you wanted a big truck, but did you? Maybe it was some other reason. When you study advertising, copywriting, do A/B testing, Google AdWords, you start to realize that your brain isn't what you thought, and a lot of things you do are not for the reason you think. And that's the biggest, scariest thing of all. So finding out that you're controlled by your more primitive urges or your illogical emotional urges, which MGTOW would hate to hear, but it is true. And that's how you control your spending. And that's how you improve your life, is by admitting things that are true, that suck, that you don't want to know, right? Do you suck, right? I love that. It's like, do you suck? Yeah, I suck at most things, right? But because I know that, that's how I can move past that and improve myself, right? Domineering niches. Niche is a online, and niche is a kind of a topic that you choose. So you might write a book on how to do this or how to do that. Those are different niches, right? Picking a niche is an important thing when you want to make money online. Email delivery, right? So you send out an email. Do people open it? Do they read it? Do they click? How do you know if they click? How do you know if they read it? How do you know how much they read? How do you know how long they read? How can you improve it? A/B testing, research, data, all these things you need. And this is also the thinking that you need offline in order to improve your life, right? All the stuff that's online, it's just offline stuff where you actually have clicks that you can read. You can't read eye glances. You can't get a list of how many people looked at you, but you can actually see how many people clicked on you, right? That's easy. And that's what's so great about online. It gives you facts. It gives you a roadmap. It gives you data, right? Not just opinions, right? Let's see here. Cold call senior management. So like basically how to get anybody on the phone. I love cold calling. Fucking cold calling is fucking awesome. I'm an awesome cold caller. I can cold call fucking Bill Gates. Anybody, I have total confidence, and I've done many crazy things in my life. I have total confidence in my cold calling ability. It might take me a month, but I'm going to get that motherfucker on the phone if I want to, if I have a good reason. The immediate edge, again, improving myself on that. Linchpin, list building. Lynda is good. Lynda is an online study site where there's a number of courses, so I can open up that one, and you can see, where are my Lynda courses? I don't know where they are. I have a bunch of Lynda courses somewhere. Okay, not in there. Okay. Inside sales, basically how to build an inside sales team. You have that's kind of like a call center, basically. You have outside sales, which is going and visiting customers, and you have inside, which is on the phone, right? Inside sales is very important. If you're setting up a corporation, a large sales team, you need to have a tight inside sales team, and they're very different than your outside sales team. Outside sales team, they tend to be more political. They tend to be better at working with management and consulting. Inside sales is a different skill, right? It's an important thing. Outsourcing, PHP, persuasion, how to grow a company, SEM, right? Power copywriting, again, sales letters, how to do sales, and then list building, back to list building. So I studied all these books. I studied all these things. All these things help me in different ways, and you often don't know how they're going to help you. Like, you might find yourself be very good at something that you never thought you'd be good at. That's why it's important to study different things online, is because, you might be 70 years old and you might think, oh, I'm no good at the internet, right? But then you study the different aspects of online sales and you might find, holy shit, I'm like really good at this, And then, but it was like you learned it the old school way, but it can actually be used today, right? So you learn that by studying these things that you think you wouldn't be good at, right? IQ, I've downloaded a lot of books on IQ. I have, I think, about 6 books on IQ, how to improve your IQ. I never found any of them particularly helpful, but I'm open-minded. Maybe I will someday find a good IQ book. I have a series of Japanese audiobooks here, so I can listen to these anytime I want to learn. I want to brush up my Japanese. I put them in my audiobook, in my MP3, and I walk around, and then I can listen to these stories. And some of these are quite good. They're very they're almost like Disney stories where they have background horses in the background and sounds and things that keep my attention. So those are good. Jared Diamond, he was a popular author. What was his thing? Oh yeah, this guy's quite a thinker. Yeah, Jared Diamond's pretty cool. He talks about collapse, how societies fail or succeed. And then why sex is fun. That's interesting. That's an interesting book. Jared Diamond, Jay Abraham, big online marketer. I think maybe as a man, I'd love to meet him. I have a couple of friends who actually know the guy. I don't want to say anything bad because I'm sure if I met him, I'd be like, oh my gosh, Jay, you're awesome. But some of his stuff, I don't know. Some of the ways he presents stuff doesn't. I don't know. The acting like a billionaire thing that doesn't really give me wood, but it's all good. Everybody's got their different ways of doing things. I study Jay Abraham, and I respect anybody who puts good content online. And Jay Abraham definitely puts good content online. And I've watched and listened to and bought a lot of his stuff. Jeff Walker, I've used a lot of his stuff. Me and my friend purchased PLF. Product Launch Formula. We got the 3.0. It was awesome. We pitched in money together and bought that. That was good. Jeff does good marketing, and he does it. His stick, his way he presents is like, I'm a normal guy, just a normal guy online. Not special, not smart. He does a good job with his persona and the way that he presents himself. It's very different than Jay Abraham. Jay Abraham is more like, hey, I know everything. I'm Jay Abraham. Get the fuck out of my way. You get run over by a man like me. That's his persona. Jeff Walker, I can more relate to. He's like very soft. He's like, hey, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I have smart friends, and I tried this, and what do you know? It worked. There's many different ways to succeed in life, guys. There's not one way. There's many different personalities. So when you meet somebody you like online, you can learn from them, but don't think you have to be like them. Don't think that, oh my God, I have to be like this particular character. If I want to be a real man, study from everybody, but in the end, you got to go with who you are, and who you are is not obvious. You become different people in different phases of your life if you keep growing. If you don't ever grow, then you become one kind of person, and then you're that person. But I don't think, obviously, that's such a great plan. Jim Rohn, this guy, I like Jim Rohn. He passed away, unfortunately. But he's a guy, he's a type of self-help guy who is his audience was largely Christian. Although his stuff was not Christian, it was business. And I'm not a Christian. I don't know. Sometimes when you sell to these niches, I don't like it that much because, in other words, let's say you're a Christian musician, you can kind of copy. Let's say somebody makes like a guitar sound, a certain sound in the popular music. You can kind of copy that and make a Christian song using that same sound. I've seen a lot of people do that in different niches. They kind of steal somebody's idea and they use it in a smaller niche. I don't respect that. I don't like that. But Jim Rohn's not one of those guys. He's a character. He's a guy who he had the skills. He had the abilities. He was awesome. And one of my favorite books by him is How to Use a Journal. And that is fucking fantastic. I'm telling you, it's such a great book. It almost brings tears to your eyes. Even if you don't even use it, you never write a journal, just listen to How to Use a Journal by Jim Rohn, and you will be a better man. It's an awesome book. And it's just very positive and awesome. It's just, it's great. I'm sure I use some of the ideas, but what I'm saying is like some of these books, you don't even have to implement them to gain. I learned a lot about almost like being a father from him. He's really a great teacher and leader. I like Jim Rohn. Okay, Joe Polish, interesting guy, internet marketer. Personality is a little bit odd. I always hear him putting down this one guy that he does a podcast, which I can't understand why he does that. I hope he gets over that. But a lot of things I like about Joe Polish. Joe Polish is a very radical marketer. Nothing is beyond his ability to try any radical fucking thing, He started from cleaning carpets, and he has a book called Piranha Marketing, which I recommend. And he's got a bunch of stuff, which is very good. And he's got a podcast with Dean Jackson, which you can listen to for free. What is it? Something Marketing Podcast. But if you search Dean Jackson, Joe Polish, you can get a lot of his stuff for free. John Carlton was the guy I was thinking of before. He's awesome. Simple Writing System, Marketing Rebel, kick-ass copywriting. This guy is a man. He's a real man. He's a absolutely wonderful guy. I highly recommend John Carlton. John Carlton is quite the man. I tell you, that guy, he would be good to interview for MGTOW. He is a cool guy in many ways, and a fantastic marketer. Very generous too. He helps young people. He's old, but he's very with it. He's very with internet marketing, and probably because he's such a nice guy, that he got pulled along. I'm not saying he's nice, like a sweet guy. He's like a little cantankerous, but you'll see. John Carlton, fucking awesome. So when I listen to his books, I listen to more than what he's saying. I listen to the way he says it, the way he presents himself, who he is. I listen to all that because and also the way he thinks. His mind is fantastic, right? Jonah Lehrer ended up being a liar, but I listened to his stuff originally. It was okay. Joseph Murray, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Anything about the mind I'm interested in. I like books about the mind. Robert Kiyosaki has a couple good ideas. Language learning. I love languages. And I listened to all these a million times. Berlitz, Boya, let's see here. Chinese in the Car, Chinese Pod. I have like 90 or maybe even several hundred videos in there or audio in there. Colloquial Chinese, fluent Chinese. Fluent's Mandarin, that sucked. Basic Thai was good. Hanyu Jiaochang, Hanyu Koyu, Sijing Shuban. This is Hanyu Koyu. Those are the books that I used in school. In-Flight Chinese was good. In-Flight Thai was good. Instant Immersion Mandarin Chinese was good. Let's see. Michael Thomas. Learn Spanish. Guy's a genius. That guy has a very unique way of teaching. Very awesome. I highly recommend Michael Thomas. Absolute genius. Absolute genius. Living Language, great. Living Language is fucking awesome for Chinese. Highly recommend Living Language. Over and again. Over and over and over. I have recordings where I recorded people saying things. I won't get into that right now. Business. I got a business book in Chinese. Studied that. Let's see. Pimsleur. Okay, if you want to learn a language, you need two things to start. Pimsleur, all 90 lessons, and you need Rosetta Stone. Get those two things, you're on the road. Pimsleur and Rosetta. Get those two things, however you can get them. Hook, crook, steel, whatever you got to do. You want to learn languages, get those down. Listen to them at night, all the time, in the line. When you're, I was so hardcore. I remember fucking a girl with headphones on, listening to Chinese, because I did not want to take a break, even while I was doing that. I swear to God, that sounds funny, but I was so hardcore about it. And that's the way it is. If you really want to learn, man, you got to be fucking hardcore. Be hardcore. Don't be afraid of people making fun of you. Yeah, and then I got it. Got fluent in Chinese. I'm done. I don't need to do it again, right? I don't sit around that. I'm not the fat guy in the gym, okay? I don't want to be the fat guy in the gym. I will do whatever it takes to get through it, to get it done, and then be done with it. And then in the garbage can and move on to the next thing. So if you're like that, don't be afraid of what anybody thinks. Don't be worried about whatever fucking people say. But here's just a bunch of things. Nothing else is special in here. Let's see. I listened to all that stuff a million times. And Linda, like I said, here's the Linda stuff. A million books in here. Marketing, affiliate marketing, infographics, digital publishing, disrupting yourself, executive story, Facebook for business, Final Cut Pro 10. All these things. That's what I'm saying. Study everything, because that's how you become a better man. It's not deciding what you're going to study and just focusing on that. That is bullshit. That is modern fucking bullshit for schools. You need a general understanding of life as a man. You need to understand things so that you're not like in a daze all the time and then you spout off the thing you know. Fuck that thinking. Fuck that way of living. You're a man. You're a Renaissance man who knows all about things. You know about life. You know about history. You know about languages. You know about people. You know about genetics. You know about science. You know about mathematics. You know about people. You know about psychology. You know about the brain. You know about geography, geology, biology. You know about Chinese culture and poetry and how to write poetry and how to write prose and what is a great author and what is a fantastic piece of music. You want to have like a general knowledge of things that make life, and also you want to, don't just go too much in the classics. Like I said, SEO, WordPress plugins, excuse me, internet marketing, Final Cut Pro, understanding modern software, things that can make your life better, how to use things, how to use tools, that you can use to build a business today, right? You don't want to be just a general guy who knows about the Romans and the Greeks. Fuck that shit. It's not bad to know that. It's good. but you also want to know about things that are modern or happening today, like what's going on in North Korea. Why is it the way it is? Why is this happening? Why did he do this? How does it work? But the more you understand people and history and geography, and it's all related. It's all related. You don't think it is, but you'll put it together later. You'll be like, oh my God, the mountains in North Korea mean something, right? You can learn about the mountains in North Korea if you want to learn about a lot about the way North Korea is. Study the mountains in North Korea, right? There's all these things that seem unrelated, but they actually are related, right? Photography, right? The ability to take pictures, to tell a story, right? Storytelling. I've studied a lot about storytelling. Storytelling is very important. So that in the old days, back 100,000 years ago, man was around a fire and somebody would tell a story at night and everybody would listen. And that's why we all love podcasts today, is because we evolved doing that, and so this is the way it is, right? This is what's going down, is that we evolved listening to stories, right? A very good friend's calling me, so I'm going to have to get off here pretty soon. This guy, I haven't talked to this guy in a long time, and he's a very good friend of mine. So let me go. These are the rest of the Linda courses. So Linda's awesome. And let's see here. I'm going to quickly go through here. I've done a lot of photography study. The reason why is that I think that the ability to sell, the ability to tell your story, the ability to capture your life and capture your family and the people that you love life is photography, and the ability to see life. Photography is about seeing things. It's not about faking things or making things up. It's about seeing things, right? You want to be a man who can see things. I talked yesterday about the empty lot and the ability to look at the way things are and look at them, right? Photography teaches you that, right? Richard Dawkins. I love Richard Dawkins. Richard Feynman, my favorite guy right here. Richard Feynman. Oh my God, his books are fantastic. Let's see if I can find some of them. Let's see. I don't know where the rest. I got a bunch of his books. I think they're in the other section. So there's a whole nother section we haven't gone into. You're joking, Mr. Feynman. What do you care about what people think? These are great, but he's got some really great books. And if you just want something to start to learn, search Richard Feynman lectures. And there's, I don't know how many, let's say 10. They're fantastic. They will get you on the road to learning things you never thought you wanted to know, but that will make you a better man. Okay, so we got all these different guys. Robert Greene is great. Robert Greene has some awesome books. My friend interviewed him. Unfortunately, I deleted a lot of his books after I read them. But he has some great books like the 48 Laws of Power, the 48 Laws of Seduction. His mind and understanding history. Robert Greene is not a proud person either. He's an awesome guy. Robert Ringer, this guy is very similar to Ronan Man, actually. This guy was in the 70s. He wrote books that were very straightforward. No bullshit with this guy. Robert Ringer, a man. He is a fucking MGTOW, this guy. Big time MGTOW. Robert Ringer. Looking Out for Number One, great book. All his books were great. I highly recommend. He's very simple. He has a certain style, but it's awesome. Okay. I have a lot of things to put me to sleep. So sometimes I don't want to listen to a book. I just want to listen to something to go to sleep, and I put something on and I go to sleep very easily. I studied a lot about social dynamics and about seduction, and I spent a lot of my life seducing women, and it was awesome. And someone asked me, why did you do that? Why did you spend time on that? Look, man, I did it to become the man I am today, okay? You go through phases, okay? And sometimes we're lost in the fucking jungle, you guys. It's like we're blindfolded trying to figure out where the fuck we are. I was trying to figure out what the fuck I was going to do. What am I supposed to do as a man? It's before the internet, man. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I saw there was girls. I saw there was a challenge. And I got very good at seduction. And through that, I learned a lot about myself, about human nature. And I became a man that was fearless. I'm not afraid to try things, not afraid to do things. And I got great confidence in myself through that. I'm not saying anybody else needs to do that. I'm not saying you need to do that. But seduction is difficult, okay, by its nature. Women are complex creatures. Men are complex creatures. It is not easy to get a new girl, to take her panties off the first night. It is not fucking easy. and not like through having money or not through having like fame or, any kind of like coercion, just through fucking being a skilled seducer is very difficult. And it's, if nothing else, it's a challenge that a man, and the thing is about seduction, what I like about seduction is that there's a very clear goal, and that you don't reach that goal unless you figure that person out that you're dealing with. What motivates them, and how can you get them to do what you want them to do, and how can you give them what they want, right? It's a difficult thing, okay? Anything that's difficult teaches you a lot, and especially when it comes to things that you have to convince other people. So raising a child, teaching somebody, guiding and being a mentor, seduction, sales. These are skills that require massive introspection and understanding of yourself and others, and endless challenging yourself and learning. And so that's very good reason to learn seduction, is that it's just difficult. Nothing else. It's fucking difficult, right? And that if you want to get good at something difficult, you need to keep learning. And that is one good reason. Okay. The Truth is a great book by a guy who used to be in a PUA, who is now not a PUA, and he's a traditional guy. Still, I've never met him. Neil Strauss, he wrote The Game, which has kind of started the popular seduction community. I was way into seduction before that, but he wrote a book called The Truth, and he kind of turned his back on everybody. But I still think he's a great man, an interesting man. I think he's worthwhile. Anything written by Neil Strauss is worth reading. He wrote a book called Emergency, which is basically, how to start a fire, with a Coke bottle, how to do different things in water, how to protect yourself if there's an earthquake and there's no food, how to cut things with paper, and like how to break into cars, how to get out of a car that's going into the water. He taught you a lot of things. I had that book in my bathroom in Shanghai, and I read it over and over and over because I thought he was an interesting guy and he teaches interesting things. So he's moved on and he's taken his lessons with him. Time management, always worthwhile to study stuff like that. Tony Robbins, I started studying Tony Robbins, was my first self-help guy back probably in the 70s. I bought from a thrift store, I bought some cassette tapes of Tony Robbins, and that's what got me started about self-help. So his later stuff, I don't think it's all that great, but I still give thanks to the early guys. Anybody who started anything is awesome in my mind. TTC, the teaching company, fucking awesome. You want to learn something? Teaching company, man. You want to learn history, art, music, climate, dark matter, Michelangelo, Italian Renaissance, philosophy, history, wars, and Hitler, and the human body, and Western culture, and Jewish mysticism, and Italians before Italy, mathematics, science, the nature of the earth, Nietzsche, wars in the past, and Plato, and philosophy, and physics, and oh man, this is just like a gold mine in here. Each one of these is like 15 hours long. The quest for meaning, psychology, human, like understanding yourself, and the rise and fall of communism, the Renaissance era, religions, the Middle Ages, human behavior, Shakespeare, the barbarians, St. Patrick's Day, the history of, I haven't read that yet. Sociology of sexuality, the study of the Bible, superstring, theory, DNA of reality, post-American world, truth or fiction, Da Vinci Code. Spoiler alert, there's more fiction. Transformative leadership, Chinese history by Kenneth Hammond, a great series, by the way. Contracts, Frank Cross, another great series. What is a contract? How does it work? Maybe you don't understand contracts. Maybe you don't like to read contracts. But if you understand what they are, you're going to do a better job at making good decisions when it comes to contracts. Contracts rule our lives in many ways. Much as I fucking hate contracts. I hate that part of modern life. But you want to do business, you better learn game theory, civilizations, economists, chemistry, intelligent life in space, invention of the modern self, great series. Joy of mathematics, great series. Joys of science, great series. Lesson of Chinese Masters, awesome mathematical ideas. The origin of the modern mind, oh, that's fantastic. The power of Qi is fucking great. Particle physics for non-physicists, that's fucking awesome series there. Theory of Evolution, Understanding the Universe, Building Great Sentences. I'm listening to that one right now. Understanding the Brain, War, Peace, and Power, Zero to Infinity of History of Numbers. I can't wait to listen to that one. I haven't listened to that one yet. That's The Teaching Company. Awesome series. You learn a lot there. Udemy. Udemy is very much like Lynda. It's a teaching online course. You get a lot of different courses there. I've got a few Udemy courses here, but I've got many more somewhere else. I don't know where they are. Wayne Dyer. I like Wayne Dyer. Learning about web fonts. Steve Jobs talked about that. When he did his speech at was it Princeton? Oh, great speech if you haven't seen it. Blogging, how to blog, how to write good copywriting, yoga for back care. It's like maybe you have a good back. Maybe you don't like yoga, but yoga for back care is going to be helpful for you because you want to have a good back for the rest of your goddamn life. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to have a fucking bad back. So at the end here, I'm going to go through a series. Now, this is where I put general books that don't have a specific section. So they're not Eben Pagan. They're not Frank Kern. They're just books, one-off books that I thought were popular, I thought would be good. Here's the latest downloads. Let's see what's in here. Asian History, Black Lives Matter, Brave New World, DNA, the Study of Genetics, Explaining Postmodernism, Stephen Hicks, Lord of the Flies, classic. Let's see here. Being Human in the Age of Artificial Intelligence. I'm listening to that one right now. That is fantastic, by the way. I'm only about half an hour through it, but oh my God, it's good. Sam Harris. Love Sam Harris. Siddhartha. This is Siddhartha's Brain, but Siddhartha is another great book I've listened to many times and read many times. Stoicism. Yeah, that's a good one. I got that from MGTOW. The Language Instinct. I can't wait to read that one. What Makes Us Curious. I watched a bunch of his videos yesterday. Mario Livio. He's a producer, movie producer. He did a lot of books, movies, with Tom Hanks in them. The one I can't remember all of them, but he did a lot of the movies that we love were written by him, and he tells you how curiosity leads to genius. And so I'm very interested in curiosity, and I was into that because I made that yesterday. I made that video about curiosity, right? So here's the latest downloads. These are things that I downloaded recently and I want to listen to. I haven't listened to yet, but I want to have them in a special file that I don't forget about them because I have so many books. Now here's just general books. A lot of these I listened to and I want to listen to again. The Whole New Mind. Oh, that's great. That's great. Abundance. The Future is Better Than You Thought. You want a positive book? There's a positive book with the facts. Adapt. How to adapt. How to be creative. How to be functional in this world where you have to change and change and change. Advertising Secrets. The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. Fantastic book. Al Rees, Jack Trout. Fucking A, man. That is a fucking great book. You want to understand how your mind works and how marketing works? Read that book. Don't have to get into anything else about marketing. Just that book will give you a lot of what you need to know. Alan Turing, one of the geniuses of our time, inventing the computer, inventing so many things. You can read that book. Alex Haley, autobiography of Malcolm X. I haven't heard that. All the President's Bankers. I downloaded that recently. I haven't heard that yet. American Indian Fairy Tales. I want to read that one. The Boy Who Snared the Sun. How the Summer Came. Yeah, these fairy tales are great because they pass on wisdom from humanity from way back. And those are always very useful. Always very useful. Teach you things about life, right? Argumentation, right? That's a good one. As a Man Thinketh, that's another good one. Argumentation is a long series, by the way. But Ram Dass, God, I love Ram Dass. He was one of the LSD takers back in the 60s. Has so much wisdom. Be Here Now. That's his shit. Just search Ram Dass on YouTube and you can get a lot of his stuff for free. Let's see here. Basic Training for Revolutionaries, because I am a fucking revolutionary. Success Principles, Radical Honesty, Brad Blanton, great book. Brave New World, one of the classics. Let's see here. Wisdom of Your Cells, talking about your cells. Oh, man. Oh, one of my favorites. Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth. What a great book. Anything by Joseph Campbell. God, he was a genius. Carl Sagan, The Demon Haunted World. Oh, God, that one. You can listen to that one 50 million times. It's absolutely full of wisdom. Oh, man. Science is like candle in the wind. Our whole society, our whole modern life where we don't kill each other and we live in comfortable houses is like a candle in the fucking wind. We don't watch out, it gets blown out. We all go back. Carl Sagan, what a genius. Andrew Carnegie, Carol Fleming, Sound of Your Voice, How to Use Your Voice. Now, I'm not listening to her because I'm losing my voice today. Catcher in the Rye, one of my favorite books. Charles Darwin, one of my favorites. I read all his books. Chet Holmes, great sales book. Unfortunately, he died before his time. Let's see here. China Importing, China Road. That's kind of interesting, kind of curious. I lived in China, so I like that one. A lot of laughter there. NLP. I told you about NLP and Richard Bandler before. Oh, The Innovator's Dilemma. That's a good book. It's like how you have to destroy what is making you money now in order to get the next innovation. That's my whole philosophy. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. It's kind of a little bit of conspiracy. It's good. Confidence, Power, Time Management. Time management, I'm not big on that, but it's always useful to read. Let's see here. Creative Live, James Wedmore. How do you do YouTube marketing? That was very useful. Oh, Dan Ariely, Predictably Irrational. Great book. Dan Sullivan, How the Best Get Better. Pure Genius, Dan Sullivan. Fantastic series. Gold, man. You're striking gold on that one there. Daniel Goleman, he's good. Daniel Siegel, Mindsight. I love that. Anything about the mind. Dora Darwin, Origin of Species. You should definitely read that one. Anything by Darwin is good. He's a good thinker. He's an amazing thinker. The Magic of Thinking Big, good book. Longevity, anything that improves your mind or your length of your life or your health, totally worth reading. Death, oh, that's a great series. Death is something a lot of people avoid, and The Denial of Death is one of my favorite books. I don't know if it's still in here, but I've read it a million times. It's so deep. Debt, the first 5,000 years. So how does debt work? Empires of the Mind, Psychology of Motivation, Power of Self-Talk. It's all Dennis Waitley. He's good. Digital Marketing, Four Agreements. I can't remember that one. Douglas Adams is good. Let's see here. John Elliott. Drucker, always worthwhile. Little Drucker here and there. Let's see here. Oh, The Denial of Death. Oh, I really want to read this other one. Eric Maria Remarque, All Quiet on the Western Front. I want to read that. Essence of the Bhagavad Gita. That is a very useful book. I highly recommend reading that book. Getting the audiobook. Essence of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a Bhagavad Gita was the kind of foundation book of Hinduism. And this is a book where it's very easy to read. And he goes through the Bhagavad Gita and what is the essence? What is the useful part for you? So it's not one of these long, boring books. It's very useful. Fabric of the Cosmos. Ooh, that's awesome series. My God. Father and Sons. Ooh, we're talking some good shit here. Here's Richard Feynman, my hero. Let's see what I got in here. Let's see here. Yeah, looks like I don't have that much stuff from him. I don't know where. I guess a lot of Feynman stuff's online on YouTube, but I don't know what happened to my Feynman series. I have a lot of Feynman stuff. God, I love that guy. I might have deleted it because I listened to it too many times. I just said, okay, fuck. I've already got this one in my mind. Frederick Douglass, a great man. A man who was held down and came up. Anybody who's held down, those motherfuckers, they got to work extra hard. And that's what I like about that dude. Dostoevsky, one of the finest authors of all time. You want to understand life? Read Dostoevsky and you basically got it. That's how good he is. Yeah. Gary Vee, he's awesome, right? George Carlin, Animal Farm, Orwell, great book. Let's see. What is the next one that's really good? Oh, yeah. Oh, this is a great book. Here. Ouspensky. Oh, man, this guy is a madman. Let's see, where is it? It's called The Psychology of Man's Possible Evolution right here. Oh, my God, what a great book. You want to read an interesting book? Oh, my God. Ouspensky, The Psychology of Man's Possible Evolution. Fucking fantastic book. Really great. And there's a lot of good books in here. Because this is a couple of guys that they're not perfect, but they're pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Let's see here. I'm kind of going through here. How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. A lot of these books are bullshit where they're using someone's famous name, but I found that one to be fairly useful. How We Learn, again, about the mind. Ideas in Politics. Very useful. Very useful. Introverts, Is Anyone Normal? That's a good book. That's a good series, actually. Isaac Asimov, I, Robot, The Last Question. He's fantastic. James Watson, DNA, The Secret of Life. Lean Thinking, James Womack, great book. How to, basically how to simplify your life and how to think, clean and simple. Jamie Smart, fucking genius, NLP guy. The Language of Influence, highly recommend Jamie Smart. Jed McKenna, Spiritual Enlightenment, The Damnedest Thing, great book. Fucking interesting too. Very entertaining also. Very easy to read, Jed McKenna. This guy is fucking genius. He's a modern genius, right? You got old geniuses, modern genius, right? Jeffrey Fox, How to Become CEO. If you are resentful or jealous of guys who are CEOs, maybe you never studied how to be a CEO. Read Jeffrey Fox's book about how to become the CEO, right? Get off your ass. He's awesome. Why Evolution is True. Jim Rogers is awesome. Adventure Capitalist is a very exciting story. He drives around China on a motorcycle and how he figures out value, understands business, investments. Jim Rogers is, he's a leader. He's a good mind. He's still got a good mind even today. He's based in Singapore now. I'd love to meet Jim Rogers. If anybody knows him, please hook me up. I'd love to have him on the podcast. I have a number of podcasts too. I could put him on. John Maxwell, he's good. Let's see here. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. There is no such thing as business ethics. Okay, this fucking one I love. I love this book. But you don't have to read it because I'll just tell you the basic of it. Okay, people say there's business ethics, right? And you have to have business ethics. Fuck that. You either have ethics or you don't. Okay, if you have ethics, you don't need no business ethics because you have fucking ethics. Learn as a man to get goddamn ethics. And then it will come out in everything you do. Your ethics will shine through because they will be you, who you are as a man. You don't need business ethics. You don't need like ethics for this, ethics for that. No, ethics, they permeate you all the way through you, right? Great book. I was so tired of reading people about business ethics. Yeah. The Search for Modern China, Jonathan Spence, he's a China expert. I'm also somewhat of a China expert, so I love reading about China. I love reading about Chinese history, learning new things. Again, we're at Jonathan Haidt, Happiness Hypothesis. That's a great book, actually. Worthwhile. Not a classic, but worth reading. Joseph Campbell, again, we had his other one, the Power of Myth. He's got a number of books. Hero with a Thousand Faces, again, it's talking about myth. What's interesting about Joseph Campbell is he was into myth, right? And then he decided that he was going to make his career based on being an expert on myth. No one had ever done that before. He personally thought myths were important, and he made being like an expert on myths a thing, and then he became an expert on myths, and it was a thing. He was not just inventing some marketing bullshit. Okay? Myths are valuable. They teach us lessons from history. They teach us deep lessons about ourselves, and he knew that, and he also became an expert in it. So he's like not only a genius in like general knowledge of things, understanding humanity, but he's also a knowledge of marketing. He's a genius in marketing, and he took that niche and he owned that niche and he invented himself as that niche, and he did a great job and brought a lot of value to everybody. Naturally, he had a fucking great life, right? Time management, again, evolving yourself. Let's see, Leading Change, again, being a leader, Execution. It's a great book. How to just fucking do shit. Don't talk, goddamn do shit, right? Laws of Money, learning about money is always a good thing. Always worthwhile. If you see a good book about money, again, don't just read a book about money. Read somebody you respect that talks about another book about money that influenced them. Then you read the fucking book. Legacy Ashes, the history of the CIA, almost makes you want to cry because they were so fucking lame. It's like sad to read. War and Peace, Tolstoy, great. Letter to a Christian Nation, Sam Harris, great book. Liar's Poker, 1980s Wall Street, great book. You'll laugh your ass off. Lifetime's Benjamin Franklin. Anything by Benjamin Franklin, recommend. Stamp of approval. That guy was American fucking genius. Lynchpin, great book. Lost on Project China, funny. Machiavelli, he was a very misunderstood guy. Highly recommend Machiavelli. He was not a guy who wants to grind your face in the ground, a power monger. He was not an SJW. He was a fucking brilliant man and very misunderstood. Machiavelli, made to stick, how to market, how to get an idea to stick in people's minds, right? Malcolm Gladwell has a lot of good stuff. Mao, understanding Mao. When everybody talks about, oh, he's a Hitler, he's a Hitler. Oh, he's like Hitler. Oh, he's like that. If you understand Hitler, you won't say that so easily about people. Because if you understand the era that happened and the history and the psychology and the drug problem they had, if you understand a man, you won't have these easy black and white things. Life won't be as simple. You won't be a 3-minute video kind of guy, but you will understand life, and that is what the ultimate goal is. The ultimate goal is to be a wise man who understands life. So studying someone like Mao is great because you're going to find out that Mao had a lot of very strong characteristics. Of course, his reign led to, tens of millions of deaths from famine and many other things. But understanding a great leader like that and how he thought and how he acted and the fucking brilliant moves he made. Just one simple thing was it was Mao's communist and also the Chiang Kai-shek, his soldiers fighting the Japanese. And so what Mao would do is he would let Chiang Kai-shek go in and then basically get decimated and then, kill a lot of the Japanese. And then when there's like 5% left, he'd come in and clean it up and then claim victory. So he was a genius strategist. So you can learn a lot about Mao in that sense, and being a leader and, creating a brand. Mao even today is a brand. You see him on T-shirts. You see him all over the place. I'm not a big fan, but I also understand a lot about the guy because I've studied him. So I can't say it's a black and white thing. Mark Stein, America Alone, talking about the future. Anything by Mark Twain is awesome. I love Mark Twain. Flourish, great book. Digital Currencies, I haven't read that one actually. I've read a lot of Bitcoin books are out of date by the time they're out, so I'd download them and I'll check them out. Mathematics, Matt Ridley, fucking awesome. He wrote a lot of great books. Nature versus Nurture basically talks about a lot of things that Jordan Peterson talks about now, is how we are a result of our nature in many ways, more than the nurture, right? Talking about the stock market meltdown, right? Great book, teaches you to understand things before they happen. Science, Michael Caine, he's funny, he's great. Michael Fox, yeah. The Unbearable Lightness of Being, it's a great book. I don't think it's as great as I used to think it was. Mind Wide Open, great book. 10 stamps of approval on that one. Moneyball, how baseball is all about money these days. Mortimer Adler, How to Read a Book. Fucking great book, by the way. You want to start with a book before you read everything else? Read this book about how to read a book. Learn how to read better. Yep, before. Inside Sales, My Favorite Universe, great book. Anti-Fragile, talking about, I won't even say, but it's a good book. It teaches you a lot about how the internet works and how seemingly weak things end up being quite robust in real life. How does that work? You think they're going to break. They somehow work. How does that net hold together? Nathaniel Brandon was one of the fathers of self-help and great guy. He's a real man. Great. All his books are great. The Psychology of Self-Esteem is one of his best. Let's see what else is here. Nothing else. I guess that's all I got left. I think that's his same book twice. Native Wisdom, Native Americans, Negotiation, Never Eat Alone. Basically, if you're in business and you're a salesman, never eat alone. Always invite somebody. Always network. Always increase your friendships and relationships. The Shallows, great book. Nietzsche, oh man. Glenn Greenwald, No Place to Hide, good book. Og Mandino, fantastic. On Intelligence, on Bullshit. I can't remember what they were. I enjoyed them. Again, we're at Ouspensky. I love this guy. Orange is the New Black, I haven't read that. 100 Years of Solitude, I haven't read that. Let's see here. P90X, I never did that. but I downloaded it. Let's see here. Wired to Wealth, blah, 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 Penny Marshall. So some stuff, what you do is you download it, and then 10 years later you read it. So don't be afraid to buy something or put it in your library, and then make sure you have a backup of everything. But then later you might use it. It might come in handy at a later point in time. Never build a library and then later think about what you want to read now, so that you have your own library. I got my own Library of Congress, right? I read when I'm ready. Perv, Jesse Bering. This is a great book. Jess Bering, she talks about all the sexual perversions and how we all have a little bit of each, like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And it's a very interesting book. Very interesting book. It gets into sexuality. Oh, there's nothing. Let's see here. The cover here. Let's see if it's anything interesting. Sexual deviant in all of us. Yeah, it's good. Good stuff. Okay, let's see here. All right, Perv. Innovation, entrepreneurship. Peter Thiel, 0 to 1, good book. Peter Thompson, okay. Again, Pimsleur. So we're getting towards the end here. Psychocybernetics, I read that many times. Again, we're Richard Feynman, The Reminiscences of a Stock Operator, great book about a young kid who was running numbers back and forth in Wall Street back in the 20s, and he learned to be one of the greatest traders of all time. Cialdini, great guy, great books. I recommend all his books. Let's see here. Robert Spencer, haven't read that yet. Truth About Muhammad, I haven't read that. No Excuses, I haven't read that. The Moral Animal, I want to read that. Sales has 1 million books inside there. I haven't read those books yet. Science of Self-Discipline. Okay, The Power of One, that's a good book. Let's see here. Let's get to the end here. The Autobiography of a Marine Shooter, that's a good book. Shinjin Young, Science of Alignment, highly recommend. Let's see here. Sniper, which is about Google advertising. Steve Jobs' book. Stumbling on Happiness, great book. Highly recommend Stumbling on Happiness. Anything about happiness, health, these sales, making money. These are stuff that, spend less time reading about fantasy, some fucking bullshit about feminism, whatever. Read about stuff that's going to help you. But also, like I said, you need variety. And so someone like Terence McKenna here is another one of the people who led the 60s revolution and doing LSD and everything. He has a lot to share, actually. A lot of wisdom. The Big Short, talking about some guys that made money off of the '08 crisis. Great book. God, I want to do that when Japan collapses. The Einstein Factor, The Elegant Universe, The Rise and Fall of China. The Fall and Rise of China. I haven't read that yet. I want to read that. The Glass Cage was good. Iceman Cometh is great. A mafia hitman, talking about all the people he killed. They tied some guy up, let the rats eat him alive in a cave. Oh, the guy's brutal. The Kabbalion, again, this is Madonna fucking religion, but Hermetic philosophy. These are the hermits who lived alone. There's always wisdom in these books. Always wisdom in these old books. It's hard to find. It's hard work. These aren't the books you pick up first, but when you read everything else, you start to read these kind of stuff. Let's see. The New Rules, Powerful Engagement, great book about focusing on things, about not letting your mind wander, right? Keeping your mind focused. The Red Queen, great book. The Quants, how like stock traders that are numbers guys, math guys took over Wall Street, went from like the charismatic guys to the numbers guys. The Righteous Mind, again, Jonathan Haidt, he's great. Logo Design, study that. The Second Machine Age, it's out of date now, but still fantastic book. I really enjoyed that book, actually. I read it like 20 years ago. Let's see here, but it was good, very good. The Slight Edge, how you just need to be a little bit better than other people. You just need to read a little bit more. Now, I want to read a lot more, but just if you know a little bit more than other people. The gold medal and the silver medal is sometimes only 1/100th of a second, right? You just need to be, everything I'm teaching you, that I'm telling you, just try it. Just try it. You just need that little edge over other people, right? The slight edge, right? The Third Chimpanzee, that's man, right? That's a great book. The War of Art. The War of Art is a fantastic book. There's The Art of War, right? By Sun Tzu, which is good. The War of Art. If you're a creator, you goddamn have to read The War of Art. Probably the most powerful book on creation ever made. The War of Art. Stephen Pressfield. I love Stephen Pressfield. And he wrote another book called Killing Rommel, which was a great book, one of my favorite books. If you want to read a book totally unrelated to like studying about yourself and stuff, read Killing Rommel. God damn, that was a great book. Stephen Pressfield, that guy can write. That mofo can write. Let's see here. Thinking for a Living, Thinking Skills with 20th Century. Great. I listened to that. 4-Hour Work Week a long time ago. Let's see. Mental Game of Money. Yeah, that's kind of like title that gets my attention. The Mental Game of Money. Okay. Because a lot of people just make books and they copy other people. The Mental Game of Money. That's a guy who probably knows something, right? Worth looking into something like that. Let's see here. Truman Capote. Good stuff. Tuesdays with Morrie. I didn't find to be that good. Retirement Overseas. Yeah. Unbroken. I went and met these guys. The unbroken men, the American men, and that were taken hostage by the Japanese. And I went to hear them speak when they spoke in Tokyo 3 years ago. And I was one of the highlights of my life, shaking hands with, listening to, and asking questions from these great men. Really fantastic. Holy shit, that was a powerful night. And then I saw the movie Unbroken. Really good, very worthwhile. And I didn't see the movie even. I read the book. It was great. It makes you... It's difficult to like the Japanese after that book, but I love the Japanese. And that's what life is about. It's about accepting the complexity that is our fucking world. It's not about, this guy's a scammer, that guy's great, he's God. It's not. It's about understanding the complex world we live in. And the Japanese are very complex people, very complex history. And Unbroken was not one of their brightest moments, but it still is very worthwhile and teaches you a lot about how to survive, how to make it when things are against you. Venture Deals, I've read that many times. How to raise money from venture capitalists. You want to raise money in VC money? I did it before. I read that book like 10 times. Great book, and I heard there's a bunch of good books now, but that was a great book. So sometimes I'll read a specific book to learn something that I want to do. I was raising money for a startup in Silicon Valley. I read that book, Vocal Power, about how to use your voice. I still want to study more about the voice because I lose my voice. And I know I don't use my voice very powerfully, and I want to learn more. War and Peace, great book. The Snowball, Warren Buffett. Listened to quite a bit of that, not all of it. But anybody like Warren Buffett, who is a successful guy and he has his own way of thinking about things. Wendy Friesen, Male Health. I listened to some of that. I want to listen to more of that. Learning about how man's body works. Let's see here. And we're down at the end here. Your Deceptive Mind. Again, that was a good book. Anything about the mind. You're Not So Smart. That's a great book about how you're deluding yourself. And the many other ways, Friends and Facebook, and why it's mostly fiction, how you delude yourself. That's a great book. Your Deceptive Mind, another great book. Zig Ziglar, great teacher back in the day, sales teacher. And there we go. There's some of the guys I've studied. And if you can download a lot of these books from Audible. You can sign up for Audible. I'm not selling anything. I probably should put some kind of a link below and get $5 or whatever you get. But maybe I'll get around to doing that. If I do put the link down there, maybe sign up would be cool. Make a couple bucks. But basic thing is you need to improve your life, and you're only going to get it by letting in new ideas. Don't have a closed mind. Learn the way that works for you. This is what works for me. And I use things like Audible. And then if you want to start right now without paying for anything, doing anything, you can look on YouTube and search audiobook. And there's quite a few audiobooks. And quite a few of the people I mentioned, if you look in Audible, you're going to see that there's a lot of books by these guys online for free, or lectures where they give away their secrets, right? So buy books, read books, steal books, get those books into your mind. Take that book and somehow squish it into some way that you can somehow mash the DNA into your mind so that you're no longer a man who cannot learn. Be a man who always learns, who always grows, who finds the way despite everything being against you, but despite you not being good at the things that other people are good at. Learn your own way to succeed, and you will have a fucking awesome life. This is one of my most important messages. So thanks, guys, for listening for this very long podcast, and I hope that it was helpful. I really do. I really hope that this was helpful, you guys. So thanks, and take it easy, and I will see you guys on the next one.